Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. In these beautiful occasions, I would like to explain about the comparisons of journal that I have resumed, that I have just summarized. Especially there are three types of journal that I choose. The first one is a micro-analysis study of pragmatic content in Indonesian ELT textbooks. The second one, rating EFL learners interlanguage pragmatic competency by non-native English-speaking teachers. And the last title is intercultural communicative competence in ELT. Okay, the author, the first journal is Satrio Aji Pramono and Eri Kurniawan. The second authors are Mino Alenia, Zahreh R. El Sami, and Atifeh Rezanejak. And the last one, the last author of the article is Ugur Resep Setinafsi. The year, the first article is on 2020, and the second article is on 2014, and the last article is 2012. Let's go to the theory, because here I would like to make the comparisons between theory, methods, findings, and also the conclusions. Actually, when we see from the title, there are really difference. It's different topic, but it has a main topic. The main topic is about pragmatic. That's the main topic. But here is the designs of the article, and the theory, the methods, and also the finding will be different, either in objects, subjects, and other parts of the article. Let's go to the first one, that is in theory. The main theory that I find in the first article, that is Zhao and Torresel 2011, suggests that learning a language means learning how to communicate in that language, and therefore successful communications between interlocutor lays upon proper speech aids, utterances that serve specific functions in communications. In line with that, Glaser 2009 suggests that high level of pragmatic competence in the target language has a constructive effect for successful communication within the L2 context. And one important aspect of pragmatic competence is understanding and production of speech aid and their appropriateness in a given situation. This is changed to 2005. The method of the first journal is pragmatic content analysis. So this journal, the first journal especially, will focus on how to analyze the content, in which here there are two books in which they are going to be found. They are going to be analyzed either in a book under title When English Rings a Bell and English on Skies. And this study or this journal will only focus on two pragmatic contents, that is thanking and apologizing. Here the findings: the book When English Rings a Bell contains 27 sentences of thanking and 9 sentences of apologizing. Meanwhile, the book English on Sky contains 27 thankings and 17 apologizings. But even there are similar numbers of them, but all of them have different. And here the conclusions what the author made for the journal is: the coverage of strategies of those two textbooks is still considered minimal. So even though there are a lot of thanking words and apologized word or sentence or context, but the strategies of those two sentences to deliver in the context with the students are still minimal, so it needs to be added. That's the first journal. The second one, that is reading EFL learners interlanguage pragmatic competence by non-native English speaking teachers. The main theory of this journal is a situationally appropriate language use has become essential to L2 communicative competence. Great attention has been given to methods for examining and assessing pragmatic competence. Even though some studies are done on pragmatic assessment, a few studies are done on the reader's variations in the assessment of pragmatic competence. Readers' characteristics and behaviors have rarely been investigated in pragmatic assessment. According to Wolfson, 1981, the complement response strategies can be divided into 5 categories: acceptance, acceptance with amendment, non-acceptance, non-response, and combinations. So the second journal will mainly focus on how to give a good assessment and a good assessment for those for students who will be completely in pragmatic terms. And here there are five complements in which that can be included into this assessment. There are acceptance, acceptance with amendment, non-acceptance, non-response, and the last one is combinations. And then the method here, it uses mixed study approach and includes both qualitative and quantitative analysis. Qualitative is to describe the whole things in the assessment, and quantitative analysis is used to test. So of course to test, and also to get the data of the examiners. And the findings, our study revealed the criteria that teachers use to assess the pragmatic productions of EFL learners. The findings show that the different criteria are used by teachers, and some criteria are more salient than others. And then the conclusion, the different criteria are used by teachers, and some criteria are more salient than others. Overall, the research continues to meet the questions of how reliable readers can be based on personal characteristics and variables such as language background. So the conclusions, whatever the assessment is, whatever the contents of the teaching is, as long as it has a relationship, it has a good relationship with the environment, or let's say it as a background of their own language. And then the last one is intercultural communicative competence in ELT. 2012. This the last journal that I summary is actually about library research, in which it tries to get the data in which how to deal with English language teaching for intercultural communicative competence. So the main theory that I found is based on the critical review of selected relevant studies and with a historical perspective. This discussion paper as a piece of secondary research, Nunan, 1992, page 8, aimed to point out where the word of language teaching is in terms of competencies that learners are expected to gain. It was communicative competence. The knowledge, motivation, and skills needed to interact effectively, appropriately with members of different cultures is currently the highly favored type of competence after the sequential dominance of grammatical competence and communicative competence. So here, in the theory, in the basic theory, the writer focuses more on communicative competence, in which for all language learners, communicative competence will always be the prior skills that should be mastered. And the findings are about linguistic competence, Chomsky 1964, communicative competence, Himes 1972, and various studies on intercultural communicative competence. So, the findings will tell you about some substantial that the writer arranged for his study, for his journal. The first one is about linguistic competence, the second one is about communicative competence, and the last one is about intercultural communicative competence. So as I have told you that this journal will focus on communicative competence that is based on the intercultural. So the conclusions will be English language course need to promote awareness of the cultural values underlying language to encourage students to become culture observers and analyzed, discover theory and draw the map themselves. Teachers provide an outline and students fill it in. So the conclusions of what the writer finds in the previous research in books that they use for library research is everything in ELT should be relationship should be in relation with the culture that they have. For example, if I am Indonesian, so the culture of the language, the culture of teaching the language should be related with what I use, especially in Indonesia. That's what they found in this in the third one. Actually, I have concluded and I have found so many theories and so many findings, but because it is the contents of it will be more than 30 minutes, so I just used to compare it and without explaining the conclusions of each. The detail for every journals that I have summarized. So I think that's all for my explanations, and the last I say, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.